One of the things that is really often left out of this whole talk of continuous delivery and DevOps, et cetera, is the security, and it's incredibly vital. And we're kind of lucky. Pete's been on the circuit doing some of these talks, and one of my favorite speakers. But he changed jobs, and he's not going to be doing a lot of public speaking anymore. So this is also kind of his like swan song. So we got pretty lucky. So with that, I will let Peter come up and introduce himself. Peter Chestna.
Thanks, buddy. All right. Hey, public service announcement before I start. I had some really, really interesting discussions with some of you today at breakfast, and I think you guys trivialize the hard work that you've put in and how far you've been able to come. I was super impressed by the story. These are things that should be up on this stage. So if you're sitting there going, wow, all this stuff is interesting, that's not my problem, that's not how I solved it, then those are stories that we want to hear. So you should be thinking about submitting and talking at these events, because that's really what we want to hear. Is we want to hear, how did you fail? How did you succeed? How did you change things in a way that we didn't think of? So, PSA over. All right. So, as stated, I did the Jeffrey Snover, and I said, you know what? I've been talking about for, I don't know, I'll say 6 years, outwardly to prospects and customers, how to do application security correctly, how to do it at scale, how to do it in DevOps. I'm like, well, let's go prove it now. So I recently took a job, I'm 2 months in now at the Bank of Montreal, and I run the whole application security program there, and I'm super excited, but at the same time, I'm super afraid. I'm a developer. So a little bit about me. Oh. Try that again. I'm a developer. That's the tribe that I sit with. Okay, I learned application security through my time at Veracode, about 12 and a half years. In the last couple of years, I've been up on stage talking to people about how to do this stuff. I said, you know what, let's go do that. Let's go actually see whether all the things that I talk about will work at scale at a very large financial institution with a lot of regulatory stuff. So a little bit about BMO, very large bank in North America. An excellent place to work. I enjoy it. And like I said, it's a constant challenge. We don't have a technology problem, we have a people problem, and that's true in most places. Let's talk about applications. I write them, or used to write them, you write them now. One of the things I will assert to you is that applications are risky not because we don't care, it's because we don't know. When I went to college and I took a database course, they said, all right, well, put these strings in this order, shove it in the database, and then you get back a result, and that's your query. So when we sit down to write queries when we come out of college and go to a job, we're like, oh, I concatenate a bunch of strings together. Oh, user input here and machine input there and all this other stuff. What do we end up with? We end up with SQL injection. But it's not our fault because we weren't trained, and we're going to go into that a little bit more here. Most of the breaches occur because of software. That's where they get in. There's some phishing involved, etc., but eventually they're getting into software. It's not necessarily all the software that we write. Show of hands, percentage of applications. So if you're writing a modern day application, let's say you're writing microservices, the percentage of that code that is not yours, the percentage of that code that is now open source, who thinks it's 20%? 30, 50, okay, 70, 80, 90, yeah. 80 to 95% of the code that you ship in your modern applications today is not something you wrote. And we are protecting things. We think of, when we're a developer, we think that I'm protecting the customer, whoever they are. I work at a bank. That person could be my mother, my daughter. We need to start personalizing why we do this. It could be me. If I'm a customer of the bank, do I want my data to be secure? I'm sick of getting hidden by breaches. That one on the left, that hit me. The one on the right, that also hit me. I don't want to be in that world where all of my information is out in the public and is used to attack me or impersonate me. So we need to think as we're sitting here, if you're in the medical device industry, oh, I got a device that could be implanted inside of me and someone could take control of it. Self-driving cars. If you think about what the future looks like and how much the software is actually eating the world and what those computers are going to be able to do for us and to us, it really gives you an idea of how important security is going to be. Okay, so who here has an application security program in their company? Excellent. Okay, and for the rest of you, it's this. And even for the people that raise their hand, for some portion of your inventory, it looks like that. At the Bank of Montreal, I'm responsible for thousands of applications. I don't know everything there is to know about all of them. So some portion of my program looks like that. Typically, if you raised your hand, it looks like this, or maybe like this. And in fact, the conversation I had this morning was, well, they're there to say no, they're there to slow me down, they're there to stop me getting to production. And all of these things are true today. This is the way security talks to us, which is one of the reasons I stepped on the other side of the line and say, I'm going to be security, I'm going to show you how to do it. Now, when we have those gates, when we have those controls, there are usually two outcomes, because it's never, I just fix the things, because you give developers a bunch of stuff that says your baby's ugly and here's why. You get a bunch of reasons why they're not ugly. And though there may be a gate, what you'll see is this behavior. Yeah, but you didn't put up any fencing to keep me to, use the gate, so I just go around it. Or I'll call my boss and my boss's boss, and this is important, it's driven by date, so it has to go out. The other way that this can happen, especially in a highly regulated industry like banking or healthcare, it can look like this. And while this is amusing, totally is, it's not really what we want. This doesn't help us, right? We're all there to build value for our company. So when we do things like this, who wins? So let's talk about how DevSecOps came to be, or DevOps in general. So we start with Waterfall, obviously. With a bunch of walls in between, we got our silos of people, and we hand things off. And what happens, this is like playing telephone. I hand things off, and real crisp message the first time, the farther it gets down the line, it gets to QA, and they're like, and then the operations are like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what it's supposed to do. I don't know who it's for. No one ever talks to them. The developers make changes as they go. I've never, ever written a design specification and then followed it to the letter. Because scale, because this, because compatibility, whatever the case is, you're always changing course and modifying what you're doing. And where does that get reflected? Who writes those big specifications? Say, hey, here's my design document. Yeah, nobody reads those. I hated writing them, I hated reading them. You maybe read it once, and then, all the other modifications, like, yeah, whatever. Now, the other problem is, it gets down to operations, it's a dumpster fire. But who hears about it? Nobody. So we said, hey, you know what? Let's fix this problem. So let's go to Agile now. Let's break down some of these walls. And when we did our Agile transformation at Veracode, we did that. We put the people that write the requirements, the people that do the work, the people that test the work in the room on the same team to build the software. And we got some improvements. There was good continuity inside of that team when we were talking about what it was and how it worked and how it was written and what we should test. Those conversations started to happen. The same thing with the application knowledge. But again, dumpster fire and no one hears about it. We don't care, not my problem. I'm going to throw it over the wall. And this is often why you don't get security inside of your products. If it's not part of your goals, if it's not part of what you're paid to do, why should I do that? So, DevOps. Now, in this case, now we have everybody in the room. If something comes up where we're going to build this new feature, and it's similar to something we've done before, the operations minded people could say, oh, I remember this incident or this outage or what have you that happened. We could talk about a breach. We can talk about the security, the quality, functional and non-functional in the same room talking about the product. Now we have continuity across all of those aspects. This is why DevOps works. We have those feedback loops. Okay, for those that raise their hand, or even if you didn't, does anyone want to hazard a guess on the goal of an application security program? I run one now, so I have really big ideas about this. Yes, sir. Manage security risk. Don't get breached.
Don't be on the front page of the paper.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You don't want my page on the front of the paper. Anybody else? Yes.
Ship software.
Ship software. I like that one. Resiliency. Yes.
Go faster, safer.
I love it. All of these things are true, but it's not my goal. I can say that now. That's weird. It's not my goal. And let me walk you through my thought exercise and how I got to where I am today, because I don't think anyone thinks about it in just this way, and I think that's wrong. We talk about the cost. How much does it cost to fix a bug? It doesn't matter whether it's functional or non-functional. The later I find it, the worse it is. It could be a design problem. I might have integrated the wrong library. I might have done really bad stuff. And if I had found it closer to when I did it, it would have been cheaper and easier for me to fix. No one's disputing that one. Let's say I brought in a pallet of parts, and we're going to build a jet engine together. Tens of thousands of dollars worth of parts. It'll take us thousands of person hours to put the thing together. We're going to put it together. We'll bring it out in the parking lot and put gas in it and go. And it blows up. Whew. So we do a big investigation. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Do a big investigation. Everyone's in the room. What happened? Who did what? When did they do it? And we come to find out that one of the fan blades in that assembly had a microfracture in it. It's not something you could have seen by visual inspection, so as it floated by the production line, we didn't know. But when it rotates at speed, it becomes brittle, and it breaks, and it destroys everything. All of the value we put into that is now in a melted mess on the floor. DevOps is about thinking about when I could have found those problems. How can I shift left? How can I move to a place where those don't happen? What if we said, well, if we x-ray the parts when they're coming in the dock, or better yet, ask our supplier to x-ray them before they ship them to us, then what we get is known good parts in the front door. And then when I assemble it, I don't have to worry about those problems. So we test it earlier, so we shift left. It's those ideas that drive DevOps. I don't have to explain this to anyone, I presume. Agile cycle, Scrum. But the problem is that security's here. And the discussion that I had with the people this morning was, yeah, I don't know who they are. I don't know what they do. They don't know what I do. And they're just like rubbing at the window. I don't know what that is, but I know I'm going to see it eventually, and it's going to stink. So they run their scanning, because we do it at the end, because why not? Because, you know, this picture. Why not do it at the end? What could possibly go wrong? And they find 100 things. Now, of course, they have their problems too. They're in a room together, looks at the buddy and says, 100 things. Yeah, right. Goes to the team. I got 20 things for you guys to fix. These are the important ones. I said, 20? We're shipping tomorrow. I've got a sales guy knocking on my door every day wondering when we're going to ship this because I get a signed PO and end of the quarter and end of the fiscal year and all of these reasons why I have to go now. I don't have time for this. What can we do? What are the really important ones? Well, I had 100 that I scaled down from 500. Now I got 20, and now you're telling me I can't get that. You end up having this discussion about budget. How much are we willing to spend now to fix the things we should have fixed earlier? It's the absolute wrong time to be talking about quality. And make no mistake, software security is quality. Let's talk about the cost of a bug. I write buggy software. So does everybody else. When I sit down and code for some period of time, I'm going to create a problem. Now, we have to find that problem. Then we have to triage it. That's a meeting. Sucks, I hate meetings. An expensive meeting, because now it's the product owner and the product lead and maybe most of the development team talking about what we're going to fix, what we're not going to fix, who caused this, who caused that, who's going to fix it, and then we got to retest it. So this is the actual cost of developing software. And that's functional or non-functional. We all write bugs. Now, if, for instance, go back to my database example, if I taught you and said, hey, guys, let's have a lunch, I'll buy, because nothing gets developers in a room better or faster than free pizza. Let's talk about this. I'll feed you, you listen, everybody wins. And I say, hey, if you use parameterized queries, you don't have this problem. Here's what can happen, here's why it's bad for you, for your family, for the customer, etc. And I teach you that. So now when you get to that fork in the road, it's like I have to write a database query. I have a choice now that I didn't have before because I didn't know there was another way. Or I saw it, but I dismissed it because my way works. It doesn't cost you any more, and it prevents the problem from happening in the first place. So now, for that specific example, if I sit down and write software, I just keep writing software. I don't introduce problems that I need to fix later. Okay, one more time. What should the goal of your application security program be? I'm sorry? Keep writing software. How? Why? But how? Avoid bugs how? Thank you. Yes, education. If I teach the developers how to do it right in the first place, I bend the cost curve to 0 because it never happened. Now, you can't do that for all things, and quality and functional stuff is different. It requires other interactions. Some of this stuff is easy. OWASP Top 10 has been around forever, hasn't changed much since its inception because we're not teaching developers. If I had a room full of secure developers that didn't make those mistakes in the first place, I just saved the company money. So the goal of my application security program is to create a secure development community that thinks about security and knows when to make those right choices. So let's talk about this for a moment. There's a lot of people that are here for the first time. I have a very particular view of this. I have spoken to lots of companies and lots of people about this. Usually what they say when they say DevOps team is this. They're really glorified release engineers that write some automation and get the stuff to production. But as I try to drive my application security program, what I need is data. I need to know that when someone did something, bad things happen, so that feedback needs to come back to me and do something about it. It needs to be this. The reason those dumpster fires happened with Agile is because it wasn't my problem to run it. But if you take the Amazon approach, you write it, you run it. Now I get woken up at 2 in the morning. Now I go talk to my neighbor and say, remember that code you checked in yesterday? But boy, did that keep me up all night. Thanks a lot. If you start to have to eat that dog food of running the software that you write, you're going to think differently about it. So those feedback cycles feed back to you. And the same thing about security. In the previous example, we test here. What we need to do is think about it throughout the cycle. Even when we're planning, I'm educating, I'm teaching you, I'm talking to you about the latest breaches and why they happened and how we can prevent that or how we can be attacked by those same things. So here is the strategy. Now, this strategy is based on the 3 ways of DevOps. Who here has not read the Phoenix Project? Okay. So put that on your reading list. I can't emphasize enough how important that book is. It's like when I was doing Waterfall and I read The Goal by Goldratt. I was like, holy crap. It's one of those books. It's a story. It's not a textbook. You're not going to get beaten up by code. It's a weekend read. It is really, really valuable. So I took those 3 ways and said, well, what if I put security in those? What does it look like now? So this is based on that. So the first way is systems thinking, what is now called, if you listen to Beyond the Phoenix Project, flow. What are all the things that I need to do from idea to cha-ching? for my product to get it into customers' hands and get revenue from it. First one is relationships. Boy, that one hit home this morning. I said, I don't even know who they are. What do we got, 3 people? No, it's 7. Oh, it's 5. I don't know. This is a problem. How can we work together if we don't even know who we are? If you are an engineering lead and you don't know who the security lead is for your project, that's a problem. I'm going to be a little cheeky in all this stuff. The reason that DevOps really came about is because there was this pull. In Agile, ship code really fast, and we got really good at that, which meant there were dumpster fires over here all the time and just kept the ops people going crazy because there was no time for them to understand the changes, how it affected the system, what new controls they needed to have. You know, your process runs out of memory every 3 days, so I'll knock it over every 2. It's that kind of stuff that happens in operations all the time. It's like, this is what drives them crazy. Because their goals were different. Ship software fast, keep production up. Those are opposed. We have to come up with a way of tugging on the same side of the rope. When I was in my first startup company, the VP of engineering, we'd get into these contentious debates about how we were going to build the software. And he would stop the room. All right, everybody stop, pull out a business card. Of course, it was virtual. What does it say in the top left? Hey, it's the same name. The enemy's out there, not in here. We're all on the same team. So let's treat each other like that. So we need to have those discussions to understand how to become mutually accountable, dependent upon one another. My new mantra in security is we're here to help. How can I help you ship that software faster? How can I help you fix those vulnerabilities so you can get to production and get to green? If we don't have that attitude, if you're not measured on security, you're not going to do it. Shocking. I do a lot of security talks as well. So I'll talk to security folks instead of developers, and he's like, hey, my product owner doesn't schedule any of my security work. Well, guess what? Security's not important. Go find another place to work because clearly they don't care. So this is super critical. We have to measure them. And that means I got to go after the pointy end of the pyramid. And this is my challenge right now, my people problem. Because I don't want to fight with the thousands of developers and thousands of teams. I want to talk to one person that's in charge of development and say, hey, is security important? And I want more than this. I want them to be measured, and then I'm going to have breakdowns of all the reports on who's helping and who's not helping, and how can we get after this problem. Okay, next one, amplify feedback loops, the second way. Super critical. And the biggest part of this is feedback. Now, this happens all the time in all of our lives. In the workplace, out of the workplace. My wife's not happy with something I did, or my coworker isn't happy. I'm looking for feedback from this talk. We suck at it as human beings. We don't treat it as a gift. I used to coach youth soccer. I coached for 15 years, all 3 of my kids. And when they got older, they really started to, criticism really hurt them. And I would start off every season by saying you don't have to be bad to get better. I'm putting effort in you. I come to practice every time, and I stop the practice to talk to you, not because I think you're terrible, but I think that you can be better. If we don't start doing that with each other and having that positive intent that we presume when someone comes up to us and say, hey, can I talk to you about that meeting? Can I talk to you about that presentation? How do we get better? And this comes from people, it comes from tools as well. Measurement. And it's not just measurement, it's how you report things. So inside of my company today, we do a bunch of this. Meter, 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 red, 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 red. We don't talk about what happened in between those readings. Work is actually getting done, but I'm not showing it. So the first problem I want to go solve is giving credit. Hey, you did some good work. We had some stuff over here that was bad. I'll help you fix that. But congratulations, this was really great stuff. Those things don't exist in these reporting today, and it needs to be fixed. So when we think about measuring, we have to do it frequently, and then we need to be able to weave that story together. So if I go to the doctor once a year and get my blood pressure checked, and that's the only time it gets measured, what do I know about blood pressure? My blood pressure. Nothing. Maybe I'm just nervous when I go to the doctor. Maybe it's high because of that. Maybe, I had a plate full of home fries with, a pound of salt on it or something. The point is that unless I get it to monthly, weekly, daily, I won't be able to see the trends. I won't be able to do cause and effect. Hey, when this happens, then my blood pressure goes up or down. More time off. Awesome. Yes, goes down. Let's do that more often. So we have to increase the measurements, which means we have to automate. Training and awareness. I have to help you. You weren't trained. No one is. I have seen hundreds of application security programs. None of your peers are trained. It's my job to do it. It's a cost of doing business to create a staff that understands this. Now, the security people don't get off the hook. They have to understand how the sausage is made. They think they have problems? Come on over here. Why don't you guys go write a secure library for me and then you maintain it over time, see how you feel. So we need to help educate them on how to get after this problem, how DevOps works and why it works this way. We have to automate and integrate. So there are places and times to do manual pen testing. I need to do that for my company. We are a highly regulated industry. But I believe that you should be doing that prior to check-in. I believe we should branch, stand that up somewhere, pen test the hell out of it. Take 2 weeks, I don't care. Just don't slow me down. Anything that happens after check-in, I want completely automated. I want to have testing available, the same testing I do in my CI and CD pipelines available to my developers on their desktop. I don't want a motorized goalpost. You tested it, looks fine. I tested it, I don't like it. Why aren't we using the same tools? Why aren't we getting the same data? So this is critical, right? We can't have that motorized goalpost effect. We have to have this automated and integrated with reporting and feedback. Again, you're going to come across things I haven't trained you on yet. I want you to be able to pick up the phone, physically or virtually. Say, help. And I'm going to send one of my teammates over to help you fix what you found. Otherwise, you're brailing the internet, hoping that someone got the answer right. And if you've seen these groups, they get it wrong about as much as they get it right. All right, the third way, experimentation and learning. And this is the game that I'm in right now, trying something new. I can't do that till I have a foundation of measurement, because I need to justify millions of dollars of budget to say, if I do this, I will see this. And then if I do it, I want to see it. And if I didn't see it, I want to know why. So the first couple months on the job are all about putting in those measurements to understand and be able to build that story. So when I apply change, I know what happens. It's the same in everything that we do inside of DevOps. You should have some expectation of how the world is going to be different after you apply it. And this one I talk to my staff about a lot. You have to take a step back as you're going through this process, through time, over years, and say, is that thing helping us anymore? Because if it isn't, then let's get rid of it. You won't see it, right? You may need to bring in someone from another team. You may need to bring in an external consultant. But you need to be able to take that step back and look at the process and say, well, that's stupid. It wasn't stupid yesterday, but it's stupid today. So don't be afraid of that. We're going to make mistakes. And like I said, some of those stories belong on this stage. Do not be afraid to share your mistakes. You have to have a culture that says failure's okay because we can quickly recover from it. So think about that. Think about sharing those stories with your peers. Lastly, security champions. I don't have enough security people to be in all of the meetings that all of the developers have. I was a developer, I know. We're talking about software all day, every day. I don't have enough people to do that. So I need to put inside of each team, extract from them some little measure of extra effort to get individuals that are good for the business, can understand security, and can bring my voice to them and bring their problems back to me. It's 80-20. Most of the things that they need to do, I can give them in a checklist. And if I give them those things in a checklist, then they can come, when it falls off of that, come to me and talk. Security champions is one of the things that I'm going to build in this, and I hope to come back and report to you on how that's going. But this is critical in being able to reach deeply into the development organization and get more information out than I ever could by measuring with tools. Thank you very much for your time today.